the balanced scorecard terminology for our people is learning and growth, which is a nice way of expressing it, but I still prefer our people. So when you look at our people, what is that about? It's about talent management, and within all of that and surrounding it and infusing it is culture, which is all to do with the values. And the values influence attitudes, and attitudes influence behavior, which is what is observable. Behavior is a reflection of attitudes and values. And then the question is, so how do you develop a culture strategy? How do you develop an our people strategy in this element of
especially
culture?
at the onset, so that it's not really like a by the way, to have it embedded.
Yes,
you know?
it's as significant, and this is why you have to have the chief talent officer or HR officer, whatever, with a seat at the top table, which too often has not been the case, but increasingly is, to reflect how vital it's always been, but more than ever with knowledge workers and this mobility of people, the big resignation and all of these things, home working, unless you have the right culture, you won't do well. And in my personal experience, where I'm a director and where I do my consultancy, it's clear that those organizations that came into these COVID times with a healthy culture, where people trust each other, where senior people empower and delegate, and things happen at the lowest possible level, they're the ones who did well. They're the ones who increased market share.
At a time when there was great job losses and you have...
Yes,
you know,
and partly it was because they were more than fair to their people, appreciating that it wasn't just this cliche about being the most important asset. It actually was. So where I'm a director, that is how it is. And that's why I've agreed to be a director in such companies, and I wouldn't agree to be a director in companies where this wasn't the case.
I was actually having a chat with colleagues in the industry. It's more the Chief of Staff Association. And there was a conversation about immigration and really the learnings you get from managing a diverse workforce. The three things that came out was more talent, innovation, and capital. Just seeing how that is so critical to organizations, perhaps that are managing a global workforce. It was interesting to see that talent and innovation, especially that at this point in time, is so critical. Where you're having a lot of movement in terms of how do you innovate, how do you stay ahead and stuff like that. But having that bit about culture being infused, because I feel like in those two, especially in the talent and innovation bit, because you can't innovate if the culture doesn't support innovation.
Many organizations, of course, have innovation as one of their values. And usually, as I run my activities with clients, they confess it's the one that's perhaps least well lived. Why? Because of the culture. So the question is, how do you stimulate creativity and the sharing of ideas from your people within a culture that genuinely seeks that and makes use of the ideas that come? At Davis & Churchliffe, where I'm a director, we now have a particular program to stimulate coming up with ideas about the digitization, about so many other things, to take advantage of particularly the young people, not just to have their voice heard and to give them responsibility, but to have their ideas listened to and acted on.
And not just as lip service, to actually take a concise effort to implement.
This has been very much part of the philosophy of Kaizen, this Japanese-initiated approach to continuous improvement and reduction of waste and lean working. And part of it is bringing the workers at all levels together to come up with their ideas. The people on the shop floor,
Yeah.
in the front office, dealing with customers, and also to bring the senior management to those front offices,
Yeah.
into the shop floor,
Yeah.
to listen to the voice of the people about ideas not just to do with better product or saving money or getting customers, but strengthening the cultures, building trust, the culture stuff.
Looking at it from a Kenyan context, seeing where the problem is, and to those leaders, the business leaders, the entrepreneurs who are watching us, and they really want to get tips on how they can actually help the organization.
So many things take me back to trust. Where you have trust, so much is possible,
Yeah.
and where you don't, so much is not possible. So then the question is, are your people trustworthy? Did you attract people who are? Did you reward, recognize, promote people who are? Did you penalize those who are not? Are you trustworthy? That's where it must start. And where you develop a culture of trust and openness, all these things are possible. But if you think, oh, well, we're here in Kenya, everyone's a thief, everyone's cheating, everyone's bribing, then it can't work. But what such people don't realize is that you avoid certain risks by not trusting anyone, but you also avoid massive opportunities, because if I am trustworthy, actually, but you think I'm not amused. I get disengaged, I probably leave. And that's why I said earlier that coming into COVID, with people working from home, remotely, etc., rather than being there so you can micromanage them, and the presenteeism of making sure they clock in on time, etc. These are the contrasts between contemporary organizations that are and will be doing well, and those that hold on to this control and Kenyans are lazy and corrupt and so forth.
Yeah, great.